Everyone, it's Doug here from the Point of Sale Data Minute and Crunchbox. We're here with another Point of Sale Data Minute live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and turning this into a podcast. Really excited to get started with today's episode. It's called Simplifying Amazon for Business Leaders. I have Guillaume Biero joining me today. He's an expert in the world of Amazon. He has his own Amazon consulting business. We'll bring him on screen now. Thanks for joining us, Guillaume. Nice to have you today.
Pleasure being here, Doug. Thanks for the invitation.
Oh, no, this is going to be great. Now, Guillaume and I first met when he was working with a toy manufacturer, and he was the global Amazon lead. So I'm really excited to get into this a little bit today, and also keep it high level for our VP of sales who, think they're on Amazon and now, or they know they're on Amazon, but they think like the sales are going to come rolling in. And the one thing that I've learned over the last 5 years, and the more I get connected with folks on LinkedIn who are Amazon experts like yourself, is it's not that easy. So there's lots of challenges when it comes to doing business with Amazon. And today we want to dig into those just a little bit, some common themes, some common misconceptions that you see brands have, and some things they do that they could do a lot better. So what I'd love to do, though, is if you could just give a little bit of an intro on your consulting business and just kind of background with Amazon, and then we'll dig into it a little bit just to bring the viewer up to speed.
Yeah, so I've been with I've worked with Amazon for about 5-6 years. I'm not the typical retail guy. I've spent most of my career in banking. So I started off with 15 years in banking, and then I moved into distribution and then digital sales. So where I got my experience was basically to launch about 20 brands in the toys business for a very good and very reputable toy manufacturer here in Montreal. So we built the Amazon business from scratch. They were both domestic and direct import setup, if you will. And we built this with my team over 4 years. We did about $100 million of sales across 16 countries. And we've tried to figure out our way in this black Amazon box that I call, right? Because nobody really knows the entire integrity of entirely of this box. Everyone knows its little pieces, whether it's on purpose or not with Amazon. But we worked our way through it, and we did it. So and when I came to realize while doing that is that there were a lot of help in the US for these same type of companies, but not much expertise with the black box business, the Amazon business in Canada. And I'm based in Montreal, and especially not in French, right? So there was a gap in the market, and people started approaching me to help them out. So this is what we've been doing for the past 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, it's your experience is fascinating. So I deal with hundreds of suppliers every year, some as customers, some as prospects, and we always end up talking about Amazon. But I'm excited to have you here today because no one in my network has this global experience, right, of launching in, I think you said 16 different countries. And we'll dig into Canada a bit because you're in Montreal, I'm in Toronto. We love talking about Amazon.ca. And to your point, I don't think it gets enough airtime because everyone is focused on the behemoth down south, the .com URL, and getting their products on there. What in your experience, how challenging has it been, or do you see different challenges in the .ca market versus the .com market or the .uk market? Where do you think the .ca market stands from that standpoint?
Yeah, I think unfortunately Canada is one of the toughest ones to operate in when you compare it with the UK, EU, and the US. I mean, it's going to be probably no surprise to your listeners. Canada has about a tenth of the technology that US has. There's pros and cons for Canada. I think more cons than pros, unfortunately. I think the biggest challenge in my view for Canada is the North American Fulfillment Network, which allowed, because there's rumors or talks that they're going to shut it down, but goods still flow up north. The challenge with Canada is on the retail prices for goods, right? So what happened? So in my world, when we launched items in the US, so relationship with Amazon.com, they imported either the direct import or domestically sourced goods as a 1P, there's a way for my vendors, obviously, to move them up north through NAFN. And my gut has always told me that this setup, the Canadian business doesn't know the cost of the item that's being imported from the US. So what happens then is that the retail price in Canada is everywhere. It's up the wazoo, or it's very, very low. So from a competitive standpoint in Canada, and it's the same story, I think, for Mexico, by the way, it's sometimes very difficult to get to the correct retail and then build a business in Canada, right? So these are kind of the kind of examples of how challenging the Canadian environment could be. It can also flip the other way around, right? You can have an item. I used to have toys selling in the US, moving up to Canada, and the retails were so low, I had to call the vendor manager and tell these guys, listen, this is long-term, short-term gain for me, long-term pain for all of us. Right. You should be, $20 higher on the retail for this ASIN, because the pricing was just so low. So that's part of the challenge in Canada. And this is, by the way, this is just kind of gut and experience feelings, because as you know, nobody's ever going to tell you that, and no vendor managers knows about the back end of these things, right?
Right. Did you find the same thing in Europe?
Less in Europe, to be honest with you. I think retails are, well, Europe is another beast altogether, right? Europe has, each country has its own P&L. And depending on how you set up the back end, you can have goods moving, and I call it the back end, from, let's say, Germany to France, and then they ship from France to the end consumer. The other setup in Europe is you promote an item in France and it's shipped from Germany into France. So you have to know what Amazon is doing. And the best person to know that is the Luxembourg team, the back end teams in Luxembourg, and we can do a whole podcast on who to go to with Amazon. Right. But there's a team of very sharp, smart, well, actually, the people at Amazon, from my experience, 90% of them are very smart, very cool, and very good at what they do. But they do know their piece. And whether they tell us they don't know the other pieces or they really don't, I don't know. But they're very good people to work with. And the Luxembourg people can help you figure out how your goods flow within Europe. And then you get into the Brexit thing and what does it do with UK. Right. So it gets a little complex. But once you've figured it out, the way some of your main ASINs flow, then you know more than most of the people in and outside of Amazon. And this is how you can get ahead of the competition, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've dealt with all kinds of suppliers, in the sense that some have Amazon teams that, like you folks had a very robust team led by you. And then I deal with other suppliers that have like a sales rep. They don't have an analyst. If we go kind of soup the nuts on like sophistication, how do you see Amazon fitting? Like, it's not a set it and forget it program.
No.
What are some of the challenges you think brands have? Like, the first thing is, hey, we're on Amazon, let's go celebrate. Where have you seen it fall apart after that? Or what suggestions would you have for brands to make sure that they're getting the full value out of Amazon? Because it's a little bit one of those beasts where people say, I have Amazon sales, but I don't think I'm making any money, or I'm not sure if I am.
Yeah, and that's the big question, right? Do you make money on Amazon, and should you be on Amazon? And I think the answer depends on the business that you have and on the product that you sell. So if you're in the toys business, let's say, right, you have to be on Amazon. This is not a necessary evil. You have to be on Amazon because, we buy a lot of toys on Amazon. If you're in the electronics business, if you're in the home supplies business, I think you have to be on Amazon or Wayfair. But I mean, that's another conversation. Mm-hmm. I think that for some people, Amazon will be a necessary evil, right? Because, so I call it the halo effect. It's not necessarily because you're not selling stuff on Amazon that Amazon doesn't help you on the marketing side. And for me, Doug, it's not as much about the marketing straight to your consumer, but from my experience, what happened, let's say just anecdotally in Italy, we found distributors that wanted to sell our toys in Italy because they saw it on Amazon, right? So it's kind of the go-to place where people have a feel of an industry in the consumer goods business or whatever other businesses that's consumer related. and they're going to pick up on some items that they like, and some reviews are going to carry into their home country, and they're going to go, the phone could ring up and say, hey, I want to distribute your line of business here because I see it's happening. So for me, there's a what I call the halo, I think it's halo effect, excuse my French there, the halo effect of Amazon. So it's not only the sale itself, it's the visibility it gives brands. And to answer your first question on what's the main challenge, for me, the main challenge on Amazon is data. It's an ocean of data that gets thrown at you every day. And most people just freeze in front of that wall of data. And then what do I do with it? And I think people today we have an attention span that's very, very short. So Amazon need deep, focused work, right? You got to be an inch wide and a mile deep on Amazon. And it's like a marathon, right? If you get into a marathon and you're at your first K and you think about the 42nd, you will not last. Trust me, you will not get to the finish line. If you take it 5 kilometers at a time, my first K, let's get to 5, let's get to 10. Next thing you know, you're going to be at 30, 35, and you're going to go, oh, there's 7 left to do. I'm done, right? So it's the same kind of principle and approach that I tell my team and the guys I work with. It's you got to bite piece it, and the 80-20 rule is what you got to look for, right? So look at the 20% of your ASINs, look 20% of your market, 20% of the countries, work on those. And then if you get to the others, and once you get to the others, then it's how you build and you flywheel the ASIN. So the data wave is what I call the most challenging part of Amazon, Doug.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, we work with all kinds of Amazon or all types of Amazon data with our suppliers here at Krunchbox. What I find too, and again, with chatting with folks who are, a couple inches wide and a mile deep with their Amazon business, it is a language all on its own. Like I'm reading posts on LinkedIn here. They're talking about 1P, 3P, CPC, CAP, Amazon Marketing Services. Like the more I learn about Amazon, the less I know. Does that make sense? It's just like I realize like this, okay, this isn't just one page. This is an entire chapter, 200 pages long. I don't even understand the acronyms.
Yeah, and so again, I'm not from the digital world, but I feel like in any industry, people tend to over complexify things, right? People like to talk about acronyms and I mean, for me, and I like simple things. I like simple things. I like to simplify things, and there's a way to simplify an Amazon business. It's not that difficult and that complex, and it's like any other business, right? I mean, if you don't understand, probably the person that tried to explain it to you did not either. And there's a lot of that in Amazon because there's just so much limited human intervention during the process. Most of the people try to get into the system and figuring out what people don't understand. And this is probably a good segue into my overruling rule, if you will, with Amazon is find the humans, find the individual, find the vendor manager, go meet him or her, and there's tons of humans behind this so-called algorithm. People call it the algorithm. I don't think it's even that, to be honest with you. There's tons of humans behind the machine, tons of humans to speak with. You got to find the right ones. You got to get to your vendor manager. If you want to run a successful business, whether it's in the US or in Canada, you got to get to your in-stock manager. Because for me, the success of Amazon is about two things: Amazon being in stock all the time and the right retail. If you can get Amazon to be at the right retail for your end users, right?
Yes.
And you can have them to be in stock 95% of the time because of the flywheel you're going to create on these ASINs. Because once you've created a flywheel, if it's out of stock for 3 months, it's going to come back. It's not going to get the same position in the same real estate as it had before. I mean, people can argue with me on this. I speak from experience. If you get it to flywheel, if you get into a top 100 bestseller, or if you get the holy grail, which is the bestseller in the category, you have to be in stock as long as you can. So your best friend should be your in-stock manager, which is working side to side with your vendor manager. So you got to get to these guys. And there's different ways to get to these guys, whether it's through your Amazon marketing people, you get through them, and you ask them to meet your vendor manager. If you're in Canada, unfortunately, they're more difficult to get to. I mean, this was pre-COVID, actually. I think they started to travel a little bit more, the Amazon guys. But the vendor managers, at least in the toys category in Canada, used to come to Toronto once every 3 months. It used to be a junior that just wanted to work its way up into the Amazon infrastructure. So didn't know really much about the business, didn't have any pull internally. You could feel it. And they used to change every 6 months, right? And they still change very often. I mean, you're not going to get a vendor manager in for more than 2 years. Very rare. And this is why you got to not only know the vendor manager, get to know the anchor relationships, the vendor manager's boss, the manager of the vendor managers, and then the how do they call the category leader, the cat lead. You got to get to these guys. And if you're an analyst working on Amazon, bring your VP. These guys are going to go with titles. I mean, it's like the classic. Bring your CEO, bring your CMO, bring your VP, go to Seattle. If you haven't been to Seattle and you have a .com business as a 1P, there's an issue. Haven't done your job properly, in my view at least. You got to get to Seattle once or twice a year if you're doing 20, 30 million plus PCOGs. PCOGs, Doug, is product cost of goods sold.
Right.
Not to throw another acronym in the mix.
Now, you're the vendor you were working with that had, they had a significant Amazon business, and toys by far is a significant category on Amazon. Like you said, if you're a toy manufacturer, you got to be there. What about for other categories where, they're not as hot or not as big a focus for Amazon, like some of the customers you might have worked with at your business? Have you seen you get the same response, or would the tactic be a little bit different? You got to earn that seat at the table, or what's that feel like and look like on your end today?
So if you're a 1P seller, if you're on Vendor Central, so this is where I draw the line. So if someone at Amazon sent you an invite to open a Vendor Central account, and that either your source direct import or domestically to Amazon as a first-party seller, you should know someone. And you should be able to send an email to someone that not that but that knows you, which is a very big difference, right? You got to make sure that these guys know you, and you have to respect the relationship. These guys have KPIs, which you need to understand, right? They're measured on new selection, they're measured on profitability, net PPM, and stuff like that. So you got to work with these guys as a partner to get to their KPIs, and you know what? You're going to get to yours at the same time. So it's a partnership. I've seen companies. This one was a guy in the UK who was just, he was just getting the POs, shipping to Amazon, and his perception was that there was no one at Amazon, right? So he just fulfills the POs. And when we came to Amazon to ask them to do some, strategy, get the new products and get better real estate, do best deals and do some, some prime deal of the day with these guys, they were reluctant because they just did not feel that it was a partnership. So there's a few guys thinking that way. And by the way, this not only applies to Amazon, right? It applies to other retailers, obviously.
Absolutely.
But you got to build a relationship with these guys, and they're they're gonna ask for marketing dollars. So everything is negotiable. You can negotiate. Like we could do a whole podcast on 20 minutes on what freebies can you get with Amazon if you're ready to be a partner and to build the brand sustainably on Amazon, right? Even though building brands on Amazon, and again another podcast we could do. I'm not convinced you can build brands on Amazon. It's more of an items business. So you can build an item, you can build a nascent. Can you build the brand a little bit? Yes, but not as well as when you're in the real world and you get into front of a shelf and you're going to sell the shower curtain, and then you're going to sell the soap with it and everything else, right? That you can sell. It's more difficult on Amazon.
I like your point earlier, though. It's really like a massive catalog. It's the Expedia of flights, right? So I want to buy a table. I want to buy a lamp, like the light I have here for this podcast. I can go to Amazon and I can see all the different vendors, all the different brands, their ratings and everything. But I may be so impulsive, or I may be going to a store tomorrow and go, I just want to research which one I want to get before I go there, because it is a consolidator of all vendors. There's very few retailers that would have the same selection as Amazon. So I like that point you made earlier. Like, the reason to do business with Amazon is not always just to drive profits on Amazon. Yes, you want to be profitable, but two, there are some ancillary benefits from a marketing, product positioning, rating standpoint that could spill over to your other side of the business, whether that's their own direct-to-consumer business or whether that's other retailers that they're in. So what I've heard from you, go ahead.
I think at the minimum, if a manufacturer or a brand owner is on Amazon, let's say in the US or in Europe, in the main markets, and doesn't at least cover its cost in terms of visibility, there's an issue. Yeah. There's a way you can make money. If obviously, talking in general, there's a way to make, to make this business sustainable, and then add on top of that the fact that people search as much on Google as they do on Amazon when it comes to, research for products. So there's a way to do that, but you need to be focused. You need focus, and you need to be patient, right? Brand registry and oh my God, there's so many complexities into this thing. But once you figure it out, you will have figured it out better than your neighbor, right? Right. And once you're in, you're in. So that's a barrier to entry.
Yeah. Like, I think what we've heard today, if I'm a VP of sales, I need to treat Amazon like I treat Walmart, Best Buy, Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. You insert retailer name there. It's the same kind of relationships I want to build, even though they don't have any bricks and mortar stores that are selling the product. It's the same process. It's the same investment, right? It might be even more investment because it's a little bit more intricate, for lack of a better word, to fully understand the complexities behind it. And having an expert like you or someone on their team that understands that landscape is invaluable, because you do need to know, I like that other word you said, they need to know you, you need to know them, but they need to know you as well. I like fully, you want to understand their KPIs, which is any good national sales or account manager should know what their retailer or buyer or merchant's KPIs are so they can align to those. And, if you can drive their KPIs and you have alignment, you're going to do that for your business as well. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, and I think we got probably about 25 other podcasts that we can do after this one, because I didn't even get into things like, how do you know that you have the buy box, or what are some of the hints and tips that we can give companies that just ensure that all the time they've invested in building their Amazon business, that they're actually going to benefit from it at the most. And then also just talk a little bit more about the data, as we were talking earlier about sourcing data versus manufacturing data, making sure they're looking at the right information, and get a little bit more into that, and kind of some of the reporting that you found valuable in your roles and in your company today that'll just help them at least get down the path a little bit. So, Guillaume, thanks for joining me today. I feel like we just scratched the surface, so hopefully you'll come back and we'll do a couple more. Maybe we can get one a month and just start chipping away at it and provide all the listeners today with some added value on Amazon. So for everyone on, this will stream on LinkedIn, YouTube. We'll make a podcast recording of it. I'm going to post it on LinkedIn with Guillaume's contact information, his business information. Feel free to send us both a question if you have anything top of mind out there after you watch this, and we'll get back to you with the answer. So thanks, everyone, for watching. I appreciate it. Guillaume, thanks for your time today, and look forward to the next podcast.
Thanks, Doug.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.